Welcome back to our Marvel Snap video. Yesterday, we got an update on how collector's tokens are going to be working, along with how pools 4 and 5 are going to be integrating into new card releases a little bit. If you missed that update, I'm going to link my take on it as well as the details in the video description down below. These pools 4 and 5 are going to be starting with a bunch of cards in them before they start getting those weekly releases. And we have confirmed that there are going to be 16 new cards, 10 in pool 4 and 6 in pool 5, as well as the next season pass card for December confirmed. Today, I'm going to give a rundown of what all 17 of these cards do and give my thoughts on where I think they could fit into existing decks or potentially create new decks of their own. Let's go ahead and dive into it. Up first, we have our new season pass card for December, the Silver Surfer. Really powerful build around on reveal effect here. Give your other 3 cost cards plus 3 power. This means if you're just loosely playing on curve with a 3 energy card every single turn, turns 3 through 6, you get to play 4 other cards turns 3, 4, 5, 6, plus the Surfer as well on 6, meaning that Silver Surfer at base level can potentially provide 12 points of power when you play it out on that final turn, plus whatever those other 3 drops are doing for themselves. And that's even before you start to consider the fact that something like Brood generates 3 drops all on its own, meaning Silver Surfer provides an additional 9 power with just Brood alone. That seems like it's going to be another really interesting Cerebro or Patriot style build around card that will have a lot of depth to start and will only get more interesting as the Marvel Snap card pool grows. Up next, we have the start of what will be the first of 10 cards in Marvel Snap's new Pool 4. Pool 4 will have a 2.5% chance of being obtained out of any individual cache or reserve along the collection level track, and you'll be able to purchase these cards in the token store for 3,000 collector tokens. Let's go ahead and take a look at Attuma here, 4 energy, 10 power card. If you have another card here at the end of your turn, destroy this. So at face value, this card doesn't really provide a ton on its own. It's kind of just a worse Namor without any synergy. That being said, this is a card that's similar to something like Typhoid Mary or Red Skull, could potentially work well with Zero or something like Venom to perhaps strip away this detrimental ability or transfer its power to something else. It also curves pretty eloquently with Attuma into Taskmaster as another possible synergy for this card. Up next, we have a card that, while not overly flashy, I think provides a ton of utility and will likely be one of the more played cards in Pool 4. So Maria Hill, 2 energy, 3 power card, add a random 1 cost card to your hand. This not only is a reasonable rate for a 2-drop, but she's going to provide some fill in your curve later on with the 1-drop generated, and that 1-drop's going to occasionally provide some value, whether it be an Iceman Disruptive, an Electra killing an opposing 1-drop, or something like a Nightcrawler slipping into a key location that you'd otherwise be locked out of. Similar to Maria, Agent Coulson, another member of S.H.I.E.L.D. here is a similar theme, 3 energy, 4 power card. On reveal, get a random 4 and 5 cost card added to your hand. Fills your curve out, albeit in a little bit more aggressive manner, taking up the entirety of these turns if you choose to do so. That being said, the output range that Agent Coulson makes your opponent play around is quite huge. You can generate anything from an Enchantress to a Claw with this card, both things that can have big impacts on the game. And the fact that Marvel Snap doesn't really have a ton of truly bad cards, I think makes Agent Coulson likely a very powerful addition to most decks that would want to play him. Up next, we have an interesting card for the discard archetype, the Helicarrier, or as it might be called in Marvel Snap, a Helicarrier, as it tries to carry that archetype that struggles a little bit. When you discard this card from your hand, add 3 random cards to your hand. The output range on this is wide enough that it's not going to be predictable in the least, but it does give you a lot of fodder to fill your other discard cards. This one really feels like it could cut in either direction. There's a chance that this adds some much needed consistency to the discard archetype. That deck definitely feels like it struggles currently, only having Swarm and Apocalypse as things that you get rewarded for discarding, and Helicarrier adding a third thing like that to the mix could be the pickup that archetype needs, but this is what I think I'm definitely going to have to play with to figure out whether it's good or bad. Up next, we have Luke Cage. Ongoing, your cards can't have their power reduced. While this might not seem like a powerful effect on the surface, simply interacting with a few different niche locations like the negative zone or the sewer, Luke's actually going to enable a brand new archetype that's really struggled to exist on its own currently in Marvel Snap, and that is the one based around Hazmat. This card is really interesting and reads as powerful, but it's tough to break the parity on it currently. But if you have Luke Cage in play, when you Hazmat, you minus your opponent's entire board while leaving yours alone, meaning Hazmat along with Cage are often going to be able to generate, 7, 8, or even double-digit point swings on the board. Seems like it's going to be fun and interesting to build around. I'm looking forward to giving it a try. Up next, we have Orka, giving bigger Namor vibes here. 6 energy, 9 power with the ongoing effect +5 card if this is your only power here. Seems like it could fill a role similar to the Destroyer in the Spectrum Destroyer decks while allowing the rest of your ongoing package to be a little bit more flexible since you wouldn't need to be protecting your board. We'll be interested to see if that ends up being a worthwhile exchange or if being the slightly larger statted Destroyer is just the better thing to still be doing there. Up next, we have She-Hulk, which reads to me as one of the more powerful cards in Pool 4 to start. 6 energy, 10 power. This costs 1 less for each unspent energy the previous turn. Obvious synergy with Sunspot, who also rewards you for having unspent energy. Just looking at playing at this card on curve, though, if we skip our 3rd turn, we can play She-Hulk for just 3 energy on the 4th turn along with the 1-drop. You could also consider skipping on your 5th turn to play She-Hulk plus 5 energy worth of other cards on your 6th turn, generating a relatively large swing there. Up next, we kind of have the mystique of on-reveal effects here. 4 energy, 3 power, Absorbing Man. On reveal, if the last card you played has an on-reveal effect, this card copies it. Relatively straightforward synergies in an ongoing deck with something like Wong, but this also seems like it could have potential in a disruptive deck, making your Killmonger happen a 2nd turn in a row, a 2nd copy of Enchantress, or God forbid, letting you Arrow on turns 5 and 6 cleanly effectively. Seems like an incredibly strong thing to be doing with the Absorbing Man. Up next, we have Titania, a very chaotic 1 energy card having a whopping 5 points of power. Whenever any card is played at her location, she switches sides. The way this plays out in an average game is going to be chaotic, like I said, and I honestly can't tell if this card is busted or unplayable or somewhere in between. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it in the comments down below. Finally, our last card in Pool 4 is M'Baku here. 1 energy, 2 power card. If this card is in your deck at the end of the game, it jumps to a random location. For the sake of highlighting the power of this card, I think an image does it better than words can. This card is terrible, chat, for most of the same reasons that Angel is terrible. You're going to be unlucky in a lot of games, just end up drawing it. Remember, you see 75% of your deck in Marvel Snap in any given game. I think this one probably needs a redesign similar to how Angel needs a redesign or a power boost, but the risk definitely isn't worth the reward here, similar to Angel in the Destroy decks, in my opinion. The 6 remaining cards we're going to cover today are part of Pool 5, which have an only 0.25% chance to be obtained from a cache or reserve. That means on average, you'll find them 1 in 400 of those on the collection level track. They are largely intended to be purchased with the collector tokens for 6,000 of those in the shop. Keep in mind that similar to Pool 4, the Pool 5 cards will eventually be downgraded to Pool 4 and then to Pool 3, meaning that if you're willing to wait to obtain these cards, you can obtain them at cheaper rates or at higher rates from those caches and reserves. The first of these Pool 5 cards is Valkyrie here. 5 energy, 3 power. On reveal, set all cards at this location to 3 power. Seems like a pretty powerful disruptive effect. Maybe a more flexible Shang-Chi in a way, because she'll take power off your opponent's board while also not missing anything on their side, even if she does leave them with a little something. The immediate use for this card that jumps out is obviously the Cerebro 3 deck, since you could even play her into the Cerebro path to make Cerebro get its own bonus in that archetype. Up next, we have Shuri, 4 energy, 2 power card. On reveal, double the power of the next card that you play. This has some pretty obvious synergy with our current season pass card, Black Panther. If you curve Shuri into Panther, your Panther is going to be 16 power. Now, some of you are probably thinking, well, Jeff, we can already do that with Wong, but Shuri has the upside of being far less telegraphed of what your play is going to be, and more importantly, where. Whereas Wong frequently gets Cosmode or Enchantress, Shuri gives you flexibility to play wherever you want on the board, and God forbid you follow up that 16 power Panther with Arnim Zola like we frequently see, giving you 2 32 power Panthers in different spots on the board. I think she's going to see a lot of play enabling Black Panther in a quite efficient manner. Up next, we have a very powerful and weird effect in Super-Skrull, 4 energy, 2 power card. Ongoing has the ongoing effects of all enemy cards. This is going to be a very polarizing card in particular matchups. It's going to be absolutely aces against opposing things like Iron Man and Mr. Fantastic, but there's going to be other matches where it's not even going to be worth playing out. Definitely seems like more of a tech card for certain metagames rather than a must-play format staple. Up next, we have Bast, a 1 energy, 1 power card that on reveal sets the power of all cards in your hand to 3. I'm honestly not sure what the direct uses with this card are going to be. It has some like obvious synergy with something like Hood, for example, or perhaps enabling Cerebro and Mystique inside of Cerebro 3 again to have 3 power to start. But I think Valkyrie just kind of does this better. This is another one that if you see an obvious use for this, let me know in the comments down below. But this again seems like kind of a passable card in the 5th pool. Our last 2 cards in Pool 3 are ones that you're going to be loosely familiar with because while they haven't been collectible for a while, you've been able to generate Galactus and Thanos off of things like the Raft or Nick Fury or Agent 13. And honestly, Galactus is probably the card in all of these cards that I am most concerned about. 6 energy, 3 power. On reveal, if this is your only card here, destroy all other locations. Playing Wave on 3 into Galactus on 4, completely changing the dynamic of the game, seems incredibly powerful and an auto-win style of effect against a subset of decks that depend on going wide across the board. Now, it is worth noting that things like Viper, Green Goblin, Hobgoblin, Debris can all provide some counterplay to Galactus, giving your opponent cards to stop his effect from happening, but those cards don't see a ton of play. Perhaps the metagame will adjust to using them if Galactus decks become popular, but I worry that this card's going to have kind of a toxic impact on Marvel Snap in the short term when it gets released. Finally, we have quite the doozy for our last new card inside of Pool 5 in this review today, and that's Thanos. 6 energy, 8 power. At the start of your game, shuffle the 6 Infinity Stones into your deck. Let's run through what these things all do before I give my opinion on it. To start with, we have the Mind Stone, 1 energy, 1 power card. On reveal, draws 2 other stones from your deck. The Reality Stone, 1 energy, 1 power card. On reveal, transforms this location into a new one and then draws a card. The Soul Stone, on reveal, draw a card. Ongoing, gives enemy cards here -1 power. Time Stone, on reveal, draw a card and then you get +1 energy next turn. The Space Throne, on reveal, next turn you can move 1 card at this location, draw a card. And then finally, the Power Stone. Ongoing, if you've played all 6 stones, Thanos has +10 power wherever he is. This is quite the difficult thing to evaluate. On the surface level, it seems like Killmonger could put a damper on some of these stones, but the fact that so many of these stones, in fact, all of them, other than the Power Stone, draw a card when you play them, seems incredibly potent, meaning you got some value off them even if they were destroyed. Things like the Soul Stone can provide as much as 5 power at a location. Ramping with the Time Stone is nothing to scoff at. The Reality Stone gives you some utility to sculpt the board. This is one of those ones that I think anybody that tells you one way or the other if this is going to be good or bad before we really get a chance to play with it, they're just kind of making stuff up. Card games have a lot going on, and Marvel Snap occupies a very neat design space, unique design space too, and Thanos is unique even inside of that. I would love to know your thoughts on what the best shell for Thanos could be. We're definitely going to try a bunch of things with it on stream. Definitely the sweetest card in this group to build with. Could be powerful, could be awful. Excited to find out the details with you all here. What do you think of these 17 new cards? There's a good chance this is the first and only time we'll have a single large card dump like this in Marvel Snap, since the developers have told us their eventual release goals are to release at a trickle of a season pass plus 3 other weekly releases over the course of the month. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you're interested in my take on which of these cards might be worth investing your collector's tokens in when those come up, well, you'll have to wait a little bit on that. I'm definitely going to be having some videos talking about what I think are the best pull 3, 4, and 5 cards to pick up with those tokens when they are added to the client later next week at some point. Be sure to keep an eye here on the channel for that. If you're new to the channel, thanks for making it all the way through to the end of the video. Consider subscribing. I post Marvel Snap game news updates and other theory crafting stuff like this here 7 days a week. In addition to deck highlights, I'd love to see you back again. Appreciate everyone that watched through to the end. We'll see you around again real soon. Enjoy the rest of your day.